Real question, do I remember how to do this? Hello YouTube, it has been, let's see, how long has it been since I last posted a video? Besides the self-tapes that I uploaded to YouTube, the last time I posted was March 26th, 2023. Hi, it's now July 14th. I've been busy, so let's get into it while I get ready for the day. There's been a lot going on in my life. So, main thing that happened, I got married, which was very, very exciting. March was like the last 2 months of planning and everything, so that was just kind of like taking up all of my brain space while also auditioning all the time and trying to book a job and just keeping up that muscle while I was having this big life event happen. Me and Sean got married. It was delightful. It was wonderful. It went really, really well. I was very worried that like people weren't gonna have fun and it wasn't going to be what we thought it would be with what we had planned, and things weren't gonna work out, but it ended up working out like very perfectly with everything, and I'm thrilled. And now I'm a wife, which is still a little bit weird to say now that it's been almost 2 months that we were married, but it's still a little weird to say that I'm a married lady, which is very strange because I still feel like a child inside sometimes, but yeah. I'm not used to this because my throat is all kinds of crackly. It's also like 7:50 in the morning right now. We had not gone on our honeymoon yet because we wanted to wait a little bit to have some time to save up some more money for it and figure out exactly what we want to do with our plans, but also because of like schedule things that I will talk about more in this video that were like, we knew were going to be scheduled happening in our lives after the wedding, that we were like, we can just wait to do it. Originally we were thinking we wanted to go to Europe, a tour of things that like some things that we've both seen since we've both been to Europe, and we wanted just to see some different things in Europe that we haven't seen. And then we were thinking about it and we were like, well, we can go to Europe a lot more easily than we could go to other places just because of like, it's more accessible, but also it's a lot more expensive to go to Europe. So we were thinking about it, and I was getting a lot of videos and things on TikTok of like Japan and Korea, of like different night markets and different things to do and different restaurants and places to see. And I was like, that would be really cool actually. So then I mentioned it to Sean one day. I was like, what if we did Japan? Because I think that'd be really cool. I love sushi. It's my favorite food. I'd love to try authentic sushi in Japan. And Sean was like all for it. So we're gonna do Japan when we do our honeymoon because it's a place that both of us have never been. We were like, this will be a really cool experience for both of us to get to do and get to eat some really good food, get to see some cool places, and go to a place that like, it'll be a once-in-a-lifetime trip for both of us. So whenever that happens, we were very excited for it. Alongside all of the wedding stuff beforehand, like I said, was auditioning for everything at the same time as all of that. And I also started a new job alongside that too. I'm working at Fabletics here in New York, which is cool. Getting into retail, the job is great, the people are great. I get free clothing, which is really nice, and it's from a brand that I really like too. It doesn't get too stressful, which is really nice. Like, there's definitely times where it's been busy and there's just a lot of people in the store, but it's not as stressful as a restaurant job was, which I'm happy with because I was looking for an in-person job that would be pretty flexible with auditions and everything like that. And Fabletics definitely is with my schedule. Do everything I want to do in the morning and then come to work in the afternoon and not feel like I'm gonna die, which is kind of how I felt sometimes at my old restaurant job. Like, I loved the people and it was good money and everything at that job, but there were many days that I just hated it and wanted to quit because I was so stressed out and so exhausted, and my body was always in pain. Whereas from this job, I feel like I don't really feel that anymore because it's not so stressful. It's fun selling clothing and good people, good vibes, good music playing the entire time, which is also great. And I get to wear my own activewear, which is a nice plus too. There's a lot going on after I came back from White Christmas in Ohio of job searching that was quite a frustrating process because it took like 3.5, 4 months to get this job at Fabletics, of going through lots of different job applications and things like that, while also working at Let's Eat Grandma. That will be discussed in a moment, and all this other stuff, auditioning, planning a wedding, and figuring everything else out was quite a lot from coming back from my first contract in 4 years. As soon as I got back from White Christmas, I was applying to a ton of different jobs, trying to find a new work from home style job that would pay me more. Also, let me show you my ring. Oh, it's so sparkly if it'll focus on it. It's not gonna focus on it, but wedding ring. Engagement ring. Wee, so sparkly. So yeah, I was like, I need to find another job. I was trying to figure out if I could do just a work from home job, but then I was like, no, I need to have an in-person job. I was applying for a lot of virtual customer service reps, digital assistants, data entry, and things like that, because I was like, that'll be easy to do. I can do it while I'm sitting at auditions, all that kind of thing. And when a lot of that wasn't working out from like January through February, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna adjust my resume because I know I can do customer service. I have experience in customer service and hospitality and all that kind of stuff. Let me adjust my resume more towards that and apply to more jobs like that. And then started to applying to more like gym front desks and retail and things like that, and got a lot more hits and a lot more job interviews, which is great. So I was like, okay, this is obviously the direction I need to go in for a survival job, is more customer service focused. And then had some interviews with some Soul Cycles and a really terrible situation with a Peloton that I had done, and tried to do an interview with them, set up my like first initial call with them. It was like 5 minutes long, and then the guy was late initially, and then when they were trying to set up my second round, I had to reschedule it because of an audition, and then it took like 2 weeks to get back to me to reschedule it. And then when I emailed them like a third time to be like, hey, can we reschedule this? They were like, actually the job has been closed and we no longer need you to come in for an interview. And I was like, that just feels like a slap in the face, and like, you didn't even have the job available initially and you didn't want me anyway, so why would you put me through all this like 2.5, 3 week process of trying to get a front desk job? It was just very frustrating. Soul Cycles, it was just didn't really fit with what I was looking for. Also, I'm not a wake up at 5 a.m. kind of girl. Like I wanted to be, I was like, maybe this will force me to like work out and be good with waking up early for auditions and things like that. But then I was realizing that for a normal shift, I'd have to wake up at 3 a.m. to get in to start at 5 a.m. And I was like, nah, I can't do that. So I had to find something that worked a bit better with like that part of my life of like needing sleep, and Fabletics was the right fit for that. And alongside that also, I am also going to be starting to work at one of the JCCs for the next month for their summer camp, starting in their second session as like a floater camp counselor. So I'll be doing that for the month of July, which will be July into middle of August, which will be fun. Just make a little bit of extra money and have something else to do, kind of bulk up my bank account right before audition season starts again. Let's get into Let's Eat Grandma, because I don't work there anymore. I don't know if I ever really explicitly fully talked about what Let's Eat Grandma is, but it's a resume writing company that I started working at during the pandemic that both my sisters worked at, because and unemployment was not cutting it anymore, and I was getting bored in August of 2020, and both my sisters were like, why don't you just apply for this job and see if you'll get it? It's a little bit of extra money, it's something. And I had literally no prospects at that time of theater jobs because nothing was happening, and no in-person jobs. I'm gonna be doing my makeup also while I'm doing this, so I'm gonna be looking over here to the side. So I started doing that job during August 2020, and it was fine. There were definitely times where I was like, what am I doing? This job is just so much. It felt like there were a lot of things that started to get very frustrating with it. There was quite a while, honestly, probably for about a year, where I was like, I want to leave this job. I need to leave this job, but I wasn't booking any theater jobs, and I was really trying to not go back to like a restaurant job because I was like, mentally, I just couldn't handle it. I didn't want to throw myself back into that because it felt like a step back, if that makes any sense. It was kind of a pride thing for me of like, I'd finally left my restaurant job. I'd finally gotten out of that like, I didn't want it to feel like I was slipping back into like pre-pandemic habits. I'm trying to focus on like theater and things like that. And it felt like my restaurant job was gonna take up too much of that time, mentally, physically, all of that kind of stuff that I was really trying to focus on. So I, like, for about a year, I was like, I need to get out of Let's Eat Grandma, but I was applying a lot of jobs, wasn't hearing anything, wasn't getting theater jobs. It was just a lot of like, I'm sticking with this job because it's my only source of income besides like bits of background work that wasn't always coming all the time. So it was my only source of income that I was like, I have to stick with it and just see what happens. While I was doing White Christmas, I was also doing resume clients at the same time, and there were some difficult clients that I was dealing with while I was performing in the show that weren't understanding that Let's Eat Grandma was my survival job and that I was performing, and they also were kind of taking advantage of my niceness of being like, hey, we can push things back a little bit. I'm also very busy at the moment, so let's push it back. And then it got pushed from like working in October into working in January of 2023, when the process was only supposed to be 2 weeks of writing. And it just felt like I was, that kind of side of me of being like a nice customer service type person was being taken advantage of a lot as well. That, yeah, it just kind of got frustrating in that side of things. So the big turning point was after the wedding. I got a client scheduled with me like the weekend of the wedding for the week and a half after, which I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll be back in New York doing everything that I'm doing. And then I do this call with this client, and it was not at all what client calls with Let's Eat Grandma are supposed to be in the slightest, that I got really frustrated. And it was like the flipping point for me that I went, that's it, I'm quitting. I was like, I have to get out of this job. It's not at all what I want it to be anymore. It's getting really frustrating, and it feels like these clients don't care and understand. And I was just getting really fed up with the work. So I emailed my manager. I wrote her a very detailed email being like, this is the problems I've been having for a while. I'm sorry, I need to leave the company. She was like, okay, great. What you can do is, because I was like, I had one other person I was working with, and then this person, I was like, I'll finish this guy out because why not? It's my last client. If it's difficult, it's okay. I'll just deal with it. And she was like, okay, you don't have to, but if you want to, that's okay. And then it turned into an extremely difficult situation where I was doing as much work as I could on this guy's documents, dealing with conversations back and forth that were very difficult, of things not being understood and communication not being understood, then being bad-mouthed by the client to customer service because of a miscommunication on a document that was filled with hundreds and hundreds of edits that I could not see all of the edits being made because I was not working from my computer. I was doing all of this work while sitting at auditions on my iPad and on my phone, and all of these edits were not showing up for me because there were too many, because of a trip that I will be discussing in just a second coming up in my schedule. I told the client, I was like, hey, we need to finish working on this, because it was also already way past our like 2-week timeline. I was like, hey, just letting you know I'm gonna be traveling, so if we can be finishing this by this time, that would be great. And the client got very upset that I said this, but because it didn't fit with some of the information that was read incorrectly and maybe not fully communicated correctly to him about the writing process, that he flipped out on me and got really, really upset. And then I found out that he had asked for a refund the day before from customer service, and I was not notified about it until having this issue come up with the client, and then that he had badmouthed me to customer service. So then I had to go through and defend myself about all of the work and show that I was having a difficult time with the loads and mountains of information I was given from him that was too much to work through. And it was just quite a struggle. I felt terrible about how it ended up happening, that it just ended on a very bad note that I didn't want it to end on, because I wanted it to all go very smoothly for this last client, and then it didn't. And it was very frustrating for me because I don't want people to not like me and not like the work that I'm providing them. I don't want to feel like I'm letting people down. And it felt like I kind of let this guy down, but also there was just a lot of things that were not clearly communicated. It just was not, from the beginning, not a very good situation. So yeah, I don't work for Let's Eat Grandma anymore. I am happy about it because it was like such a stressor in my life. There would be like so many days I'd be talking about something with a client and Sean's like, why don't you just quit? Why don't you just quit? The whole time I was in Ohio, everybody's like, why do you work for this company when they don't pay you enough and you're doing so much work? Why don't you just quit? And I kept being like, well, it's my only source of income. I have to keep it. It's my only source of income. I'm struggling to find another job. It's my only source of income. Now that I have another source of income, I'm fine. But it was just, yeah, not a great situation for ending a job. There were definitely some really great clients. I had a couple return clients over the 2.5 years that I worked for them that were really, really lovely, and I really enjoyed working with them. But then there would be ones that were so difficult that it was making me rip my hair out, that I'm glad I don't have to deal with that anymore. So the other big thing that was happening that I slightly mentioned before was this trip, was a trip to France with my family. Pre-pandemic, like I think end of 2019 into the beginning of 2020, if I'm remembering correctly, because it was a very long time ago. My parents put together a Zoom call for me and my sisters, and we're like, hey, so we have this thing that we want to do with you guys that's a pretty big deal, and we want to have a discussion about it. And it was a trip to France. My parents had gone to France for an anniversary trip. It was like a cruise that they had done, and they had ended up going to southern France and just absolutely loved it, and wanted to take us along to see some of the things that they had seen, and like plan a huge trip to go to France and do all of that. Obviously, the pandemic happened, so it kept getting pushed back. It was originally planned for the summer of 2020, and then once the pandemic happened, my parents were like, okay, we'll just adjust plans and see if we can still do this. Keep the summer of 2021 open. Things didn't get better, so it got pushed again to 2022. And all this was also while like me and Sean were trying to figure out our wedding date. We didn't really know when was gonna happen yet, because we had gotten engaged April of 2019. And when we finally set our wedding date in the fall of 2021, if I'm remembering correctly, yes, the fall of 2021, we knew May 2023 was when we were going to be getting married. And I knew, okay, at some point this trip with my family is going to happen. I have no idea when. And it gets 2022, and parents are like, it's going to happen this year. Doesn't happen, obviously. And finally my mom tells us, she goes, okay, summer of 2023, I know we have the wedding, Tori, after that, don't go on your honeymoon yet, and we will go on this trip. So yeah, we just spent 2 weeks in France. We got back this past Monday, and it was pretty fun. We did a lot of sightseeing. We were in Paris for one day, literally the day before the riots started for the police brutality. So I'm glad we were not there when that happened. And also it's terrible that that happened. That shouldn't be happening anymore. We went to Paris for one day, literally like we left and that was our one, and we landed in Paris. That was our one day in Paris. And then we went directly to southern France, and we saw, I think we counted it, 45 different little towns in southern France, which is insane. It was like a 1.5 month long trip packed into 2 weeks. We saw a lot of different markets, seeing a lot of lavender, because southern France is known for lavender, and like June through August is lavender season. So that was like the big pull of it, because that's what my parents had seen when they were originally there, and they're like, we want to take you guys to see the lavender. So I brought this little camera with me that I'm filming on and took thousands of photos of lavender. I think from the trip there was about 4,000 photos on my camera of like the different things that we saw and all the lavender that we saw. And because I was taking lots of photos of them, we went to like see it at sunrise, we went to see it at sunset at 2 different places, we went to a bunch of different fields, small towns, seeing all the like churches and things like that were in those small towns. We also got to see some synagogues, some old synagogues in France, which is very cool. And yeah, lots of time in the car driving through the French countryside on very tiny windy roads. That was the worst part of the trip, I would say, was the driving in like on back roads, because they're literally like that, lots of hairpin turns and lots of sharp turns. And people in France, specifically in southern France, from this 2 weeks that I found, they drive really fast and they didn't pay attention to like the corners, so we constantly felt like we were gonna get shoved off the road. But overall, it was a fun trip. Me and Sean are gonna be going back to Utah on my birthday, actually, because his cousins are getting married on my birthday, which I think is adorable and I can't wait for it. But also, this has been like the summer of weddings in Sean's family, because we got married, Sean's brother got married 2 weeks after us, and now his cousins are getting married on my birthday. So it's literally like all the big family events happened in 1 year, which is just crazy town. Otherwise, I'm just spending the rest of the summer here in New York, getting back to my life and my schedule, working a lot, auditioning as they come up, because it always gets dead during the summer. I actually do have an audition appointment next week, which I'm excited for. I actually got it while we were in the airport in Portugal from our layover coming back here. I got an audition for next week, which I'm excited about, which will be really good to have an audition appointment. Yesterday, I spent some time sending self-tapes out, which I haven't done in a while. And this weekend, I'm filming self-tapes, which I haven't done in a very long time. Like, I think the last self-tape I filmed was like, it was like January or February was the last time I filmed a self-tape for something. But now, because everything's been back in person, it's crazy to like think about filming self-tape, but I'm excited about it. So I'm gonna be doing that this weekend. I'm gonna be spending this morning learning the material that I'm gonna be filming. Auditions have actually been going pretty well also, from the ones I was doing before the wedding and in between the wedding and before the trip too. There's actually one that I haven't heard anything from it, but it was like such a good audition that I just felt really good about it. And it was also for a choreographer that I would love to work for. I don't know if I'll get it, but the audition went like really well, in that I got called out for doing the dance really well and dancing with no abandon and a lot of freedom and having a lot of fun. That like I did the choreography, it was very fun, like 60s da 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 da, like to Locomotion. I was having like so much fun with it. And then I was in the last group doing it, and then I like finished, and the choreographer is like looking over the resumes, and he just goes, I just want to call out a couple people to do it again. And he pulls me and 2 other people, and he says, I wanted them to do it again because they had the most fun with it and danced with the most abandon, and like it was just a great time to watch them, and I want everybody to see that. And I was like, that's very sweet, thank you so much. And then like had so much more fun doing it a second time that I was like, okay, this feels really great. And it feels like auditions have kind of felt like that a bit more, like I'm having more fun with them and just thinking like they're a good time. It's a free dance class. I'm not thinking so much about like I have to book a job. I'm just kind of like going into it and having a lot more fun with it. And I think that is kind of the approach that I need to keep going with it, that like, yes, I want to book a job, and yes, I want to put pressure on myself to do well, but it's more about having fun with it. Like there was one audition that I did that was samba choreography to Cher, and it just felt ridiculous, and it was a great time. So like that's kind of the vibe I want to have. I think I'm ready for the day. What time is it currently? 8:26. I'm gonna go have some tea and start learning the self-tape material, and yeah, lots of things in this catch-up video. Marriage, she's a wife now, trip, traveling, new jobs. It's been like a very busy few months, honestly, which is crazy to think about because it like feels like it, and I was gonna say it feels like it hasn't been that busy. It's been very busy. There's just been a lot of different things going on that I feel like my brain has kind of been all over the place. I'm ready for it to like be in one spot and not be thinking about so many millions and millions of things that are going on in my life. It's nice to kind of like now be like, okay, I can chill and relax and take a break a little bit mentally, take a break mentally. But yeah, I hope you all are doing well. Sorry, it's been a long time. There definitely been times where I wanted to like pick up my camera and vlog, but I was like, I don't have time to edit. So now I'm like, okay, I want to be getting back into it now and like actually sitting down and vlogging and like maybe taking things on the go. I really don't know yet. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you're all doing well. DFTBA, don't forget to be awesome, and I will see you all next time. Bye.